All right, so welcome to this new Q&A, and yeah, as you can see, this Q&A is going to be about the Shadow, probably the most popular pulp hero out there. Yeah, as always, I want to thank everyone who sent in questions for this Q&A over on Patreon. And if you guys would like to be part of these Q&As, I decided to, since I got an influx of new patrons, I decided, as a way of saying thank you, and these Q&As are pretty popular, I've moved the Q&A preludes from the second tier down to the first tier. So if you guys want to be part of the next Q&A, as well as check out my reviews for The Acolyte and a few other like polls and movie reviews and whatnot, just hit the link below, head on over to Patreon, and you guys can go from there. But anyway, let's get started with the first set of questions that come from Tom Hibbert, who asks, if you had to do a Shadow animated series, how would you do it, and how would you like to see the artist style? What would you see the artist style being like? The art style, excuse me. See, I would think that a Shadow animated series would probably I'd want it to be like an adult series. Because the Shadow himself really lends to a lot of adult themes, but not like an uber gritty show. I don't want like a like Spawn with like a pulp Spawn. I don't want that. When I mean like dark and adult, I mean like this is almost borderline a horror show. The Shadow should be treated as a person that even his underlings fear. Like, that's what I like about him, is that he's just kind of a scary character. Hell, even the Shadow Year One, the whole point of that comic isn't so much Lamont Cranston, starting to be the Shadow. It's the people of the city that are trying to get used to the Shadow in that 1 year and how that affects them. So maybe something like that. Art style wise, I don't know. I wouldn't make it too I don't want it to look anime looking. Not to say that's that's bad. I'm just saying, like, I think it should be in an animation style that, kind of like Cape Crusader, like something like that, like the new Cape Crusader cartoon. Second question: what would the Shadow think of Darkman? I think the Shadow and Darkman would be tentative allies. That's how I kind of see it, is that those two would be they'd be tentative allies, even though the Shadow was what Sam Raimi got my water here. The Shadow is Darkman is what Sam Raimi wanted to do with the Shadow, but couldn't do so. So I think it would be like two characters who understand, like, they can they're here to bring justice down on on organized crime through the most brutal way possible. Anyway, and your third question is, what stories would you recommend for someone who is trying to get into the Shadow? I would say, like, the Garth Ennis stories from Dynamite. All the stories are from Dynamite. So I'd say the Shadow Year One, the Garth Ennis run. It's actually, you'd think it would be like Punisher Max, but it's actually done a lot more tastefully, if that makes any sense. And it's not like him going off the Boys level Garth Ennis or Punisher Max Garth Ennis. This is just basically a Garth Ennis who understood the assignment, if that makes any sense. So those are just a few recommendations I would have for wanting to get into the Shadow. So think of those questions. Next set comes from Bill McLaughlin, who asks, aside from Siwan Khan, who is your favorite villain from the Shadow's Rogues Gallery? You mean the ever tiny Rogues Gallery that he has? I would say Senator Whitney was pretty interesting as a nice foil to the Shadow politically. So he was in a lot of the Dynamite comics. So Senator Wheatley, I think that was the last name. It was Whitby or Wheat. It was something with a W. So that senator was pretty cool. He was like using politics against Cranston, and I thought he was a pretty awesome villain to just absolutely despise. Anyway, and also Siwan's granddaughter, she was pretty cool too. Second question: what are your thoughts on the 1994 Shadow film by Alec Baldwin? You know, I haven't seen... like, I've only seen it twice in my life. It's really hard to find for some reason. It's never on, like, TV shows or, like, streaming. I can never find it on streaming. And I've only seen it twice. And the 2 times I watched it, I don't know if I like it or not. Like, I genuinely don't know if I like that movie or not. It's kind of confusing. So I need to, like, track down, like, a DVD. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or not. But I would definitely... I'd want to sit down and give my full thoughts. So, as it stands, I kind of don't know. Anyway. Third question. What comic anime villains could you see perfect fit as a villain for the Shadow? Well, Grendel was one in the Dark... Grendel versus the Shadow. For others, I would say, for other villains, for, like, anime-wise, I would say Balalaika in Hotel Moscow could be a good foil for the Shadow. Comic-wise, Kingpin or two. Actually, I would say, like, just so we wouldn't have to use Kingpin, maybe Hammerhead. Yeah, Hammerhead kind of fits into that. He's already looks like a 30s gangster. That's the whole point of him. So I would say Hammerhead against the Shadow would be pretty cool. So thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to Hunter Johnson, who asks, question 1, what are your thoughts on a scenario where the Shadow takes on a horror villain like the Tall Man from Phantasm? Yeah, the Shadow can't beat that dude. Literally, the Tall Man is just on another power level that the Shadow can't comprehend. The Shadow is powerful and pretty damn strong, but he's not on that kind of level of the Tall Man, so it wouldn't even be a close match. Second question, what if the Shadow protected Gotham City? If the Shadow protected Gotham City, there'd be a lot less villains. The villain, like, the body count would be astronomical. Let's just get that out of the way. There would be a lot less villain, like, super villains on the street, or regular crime. And also, the GCPD would be in Cranston's pocket. Like, they would be straight up owned by, like, Gordon would just, it wouldn't be like, you know, how he is with Batman, with Bruce, where he's, like, has a friendly relationship with. In here, basically, what it would be like is that, Cranston, like, the Shadow would literally, force Gordon to be one of his agents. Maybe even Bullock and Montoya, too. He would be feared by the justice system as much as he would be feared by the villains. So there you go. And your final question is, how would you do a crossover between the Shadow and Captain America set in World War II? I think I would have it that the Shadow, he didn't participate in World War II. He was battling enemies at home, organized crime, and also Nazi infiltrators. So I would have it that Captain America is sent on a stealth mission back to America because the U.S. hears that, like, the Red Skull is sending Nazi sympathizers and, like, funding them to get more power into Congress. So Steve goes on, like, a solo mission to weed them out, and they're getting help from organized crime. So that would lead to him and the Shadow encountering each other. That's how I kind of see it. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Hunter Johnson. Moving on now to Brittany Digger, who asks, first question, have you read the 2 James Patterson Shadow novels? No, I haven't, but my girlfriend has. She really liked them. Like, she listened to them on audiobook. So, I haven't heard, I never heard the novels. I heard they're pretty good, but I personally have not heard them. So, yeah. Second question. What are your thoughts on the first Batman story plagiarizing the Shadow story, Partners of Peril? I never read that. I have heard that I never read the story, but I knew of the plagiarism. I definitely knew of the plagiarism that occurred. So, yeah. Anyway. Third question. What villains of the Shadow do you like? I kind of already answered this one, so sorry, Brittany. But thank you for the other 2 questions. Moving on now to David Deister, who asks, what would the Shadow think of current America? I don't I don't have the qualification to answer that question. I really do not have, and I really don't feel comfortable answering that one. So sorry. Who would be the perfect director to do a new movie for the Shadow? I still say Sam Raimi. I think Sam Raimi is the go-to person for a new Shadow. I definitely say Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi. We already proved with Darkman that he can do an awesome Shadow film with Darkman. So yeah, just apply that with this character. There you go. So your third question is, what would a Daredevil Shadow crossover be like? I would say that the Shadow and Kingpin and the Magia are kind of moving in and trying to weed out the remnants of, because they think Cranston is dead. So they're trying. So like Kingpin's like, I'm going to be the one to take out the Shadow's organization, and he finds one of the agents in Hell's Kitchen, and it turns out nope, the Shadow is still alive. He's fucking immortal. So it would lead to a collision course between Matt and the Shadow. That's just kind of a loose idea I have. Thank you for those questions, David. Moving on to Dominic Fuentes, who asks, what villains from different media would work as Shadow villains? Again, I kind of already answered this question, so I'm sorry. I can't really answer that one. What would Batman think of the Shadow? We kind of already got that answer. Twice. 4 times, actually. The Shadow and Batman... Bruce and Cranston have encountered each other in several crossovers. There was even a time where the Shadow was briefly in the DC universe, and like Batman was like, I want to shake your hand because you inspired me to be the man I am today. So, yeah. And then there were other crossovers where the Shadow was trying to make Batman the next Shadow to replace him, and that didn't exactly work out. So, yeah. Anyway... we already have that. And who are the villains from the Shadow? Villains of the Shadow involve his arch nemesis Siwan Khan. There's also a few corrupt senators. There's also Nazis. The list isn't as like a major it isn't like a who's who rogues gallery of villains, but it definitely does have some number to it. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Dominic Fuentes. Moving on now to Cyborg 19.99, who asks, what anime, video game, cartoon movie crossover with the Shadow? Okay, I guess this one I can answer because it's not villains. Anime, Black Lagoon. Video game, I would say Mafia. Cartoons, I would say like that one. That one I'm having a little trouble thinking of, like what could be, what could work as a, for a good one, but maybe, I don't know, for movie, just to change it up, I would say The Mummy, because it's in the same time period. Second question, what characters could you see being trained by the Shadow? Characters being trained by the Shadow. I would say, characters would... Marco Diaz would probably be a character he would break emotionally and mentally and form into his own right. Will. Randy Cunningham, definitely Randy Cunningham. I've already made videos of that. So I could see him training, Randy. Maybe even Cat Noir from Ladybug. Those are just a few. So thank you for those questions, Cyborg. Moving on now to our final set of questions, which come from my good friend, Chris. What's up, brother? Good old Mount Vernon Kid asks, if you could, who would be your one ideal writer for a new Shadow ongoing series? It's kind of easy. Tom King. Like, there's no doubt about it. Tom King would be my pick for the Shadow. I mean, we saw how good he is with Batman. I think, and again, not just Batman, but with like Human Target and other characters, yeah, Tom King on the Shadow would be awesome. If not him, I would say my other pick would be Greg Pak. I don't think he's ever like something just feels right of putting Greg Pak on the Shadow. So Greg Pak, Tom King, and I will also say Kelly Thompson would be a neat pick because she does really good like Cloak and Dagger stuff with obviously now with Scarlet and also with Black Widow. So Kelly Thompson would be a neat pick, and I will also say I would I'm trying to think of like who else could work real fast. Because I had one a minute ago. Oh, Saladin Ahmed. Saladin Ahmed would be also a neat pick. So those are my 4 writers I would choose. It was 4, right? Nah, I don't care. Second question. We always talk about the Shadow and Daredevil, which, mind you, is good, but what about a crossover between the Shadow and Spider-Man Noir? Now, that would be a lot of fun. I think that would be kind of a ballsy, neat crossover, and also it works just a wee bit more, because, like, you don't have to explain away, like, the Shadow's immortality or something like that, so you could probably get away with that just a wee bit more, in some in like a major capacity. Like I could see sorry, I had to get some water. Hydrate, it's important. I could see I don't think they did Hammerhead. If I remember right, I don't think they did Hammerhead in the Noir universe. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've read the Noir comics. So I would say Hammerhead as one of the villains, and also like have Siwan Khan battle the Noir Spider-Man. That would be I think that would be a pretty cool crossover. I think, yeah, definitely that's a solid one. And third and final question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how scary would the Shadow be if he was a straight-up villain? It's a 20. On a scale of 1 to 10, it is a straight-up 20, my friend. The Shadow literally has a network of people down from, like, a janitor all the way to, like, the White House working for him. Like, at his beck and call to serve him at a moment's notice. Make no mistake, the Shadow is a dude who will, like, kill you if it meant I can take out this guy and not give it a second fucking thought. That's what I think people don't realize about the Shadow, is that you should be happy, or you should be quite thankful that he is on your side, because God help you if he actually like decided one day, you know what, fuck all y'all, I could easily run the criminal underworld 100 times, no, 1,000 times better. So, you know, keep that in mind when you when you think, oh, the Shadow would never, like, the Shadow wouldn't be that scary as a villain. No, this dude even once in a Batman Shadow crossover, like, spooked Joker. Like, this is the guy who, like, freaked Joker out for, like, a hot second. So, you know, you gotta keep that shit in mind. So, yeah, 20 on the scale of 1 to 10 if he was like that. So there you go, guys. That is pretty much the Shadow Q&A. This was a pretty fun one. I was kind of thinking of like what to do, and I might actually do I might post another Q&A video later tonight as of this recording. It just depends on how I feel. There is another Q&A I want to do that might, you know, attract more people, and if you want to be part of that Q&A, like I said, the Q&A preludes will now be on the first tier as a way of saying thank you for all the new patrons on there who have been helping me through what's been basically a ass-kicking in life. So that's just kind of my way of saying, just a little way of saying thank you, because I know these Q&A, everyone loves these Q&As. So yeah, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, and hit the first tier. That'll allow you access to do so. And yeah, it would be much appreciated. Anyway, But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this Q&A. Want to thank everyone who was part of this Q&A for this one. And other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.